Trying to impress me, pulling out all the stops, making my head dizzy when you tell me what you want. I just wanted you to see me, never thought you'd notice. Thought that you should know I'm already sold, so never let me go. You had me at a la 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 la. I can see you trying, finding ways inside my head. Lost and out of focus, I can hear a word you say. Cause I don't care about your game, I just wanted you to see me. Thought that you should know I'm already sold, so never let me go. You had me at a la 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 la. Stop talking, I don't care. With you, my mind is clear.
And welcome back. I'm Kip, and this is my beautiful wife, Jolene.
Hello.
So welcome back to the Poly Podcast for Men. So last video we discussed jealousy, and I think what is a topic that goes hand in hand with that I think it's worth exploring is monogamy natural? What do you think? Is monogamy natural? So we're going to explore that. So we'll start off with you first. Opening thoughts. What do you think about monogamy?
I think monogamy is natural for those who, are interested in that lifestyle, but not natural for those that have want different things out of life, want an alternative lifestyle. Biologically, monogamy is not natural. From, evolutionary psychology standpoint, men are, built to procreate, and women are also, our biology is to procreate with, multiple offspring. So I don't think it's biologically natural. However, I think society deems it to be more natural.
I mean, I would say it's just inherently not natural. Are there a few people that it works for, a small minority? Yeah, but I mean, if you look at the recent data, 70%, maybe even a little higher, 70% of people have cheated, and this is in the United States.
Correct.
So I would say if it's that high, I would say if it's natural, then why doesn't it work? You'd expect if it was natural for it to see that the majority of the population is actually practicing that in an ethical manner.
Well, I would also think that biologically we would be built that way, but we're not.
Right. I mean, so I think that there's a world of there's two things going on here. I think if you look I remember there was a scene in Friday Night Lights where the running back who was kind of this player guy. There's a scene in there when he meets this new woman. I think she's a pastor's daughter, and they're kind of falling in love. And they show this discussion in class about I think it's like a biology class, like are humans, monogamy is not natural. And the running back goes on to say this, and then his girlfriend, who he dates later on, says that it might be natural. But I think the problem with that is that it's very easy to see from a kind of a selfish male point of view to say monogamy is not natural, so I sleep with other women. But that doesn't factor in the other side of the coin. meaning that if monogamy is not natural for men, it's not natural also for women, because
Right.
who is the men actually sleeping with?
Women.
Other women. So most of society, especially men, accept the fact, or are kind of at least don't debate the fact that monogamy is maybe not natural, or they go through a phase where they say that. But they don't seem to consider, to them, that only means that they're sleeping with other women. But they don't seem to factor in there's a whole other side of that, where who are the women sleeping with? Right?
Yeah.
I mean, like, so as a female, as a woman, what are your thoughts on monogamy is not natural? Because I think it's in a sense, it's easier for me not to be monogamous as a white male. But as far as society goes, how does that fit in with women?
Well, so society, likes to kind of control the female sexuality, and by all standards, it's not acceptable to necessarily to be non-monogamous or have multiple partners at the same time. We're brought up to find that one and only, get married, have children, and
Soulmate.
live this
Soulmate. The one and only soulmate.
and live this storybook lifestyle, which that there's so many things that are not included in that story to make it very difficult for women, especially women who want to be sexually open and want to have different experiences. It's kind of like, well, you just don't get those if this is the lifestyle that you want, and that's unfortunate.
Yeah, I always think of this soulmate thing. It's like I'm going to find my soulmate. Like there's one person out there for you. Well, statistically, probability-wise, if you believe that, they're probably in China or India. They're not here. So, if you're just going by statistics. So that's one of those things. It's like people like to think like, oh, my soulmate. But it's like if you really believe that, you'd probably go on a journey through China and India. But how many people actually do that? They don't. I think it's similar to the way that it just happens to be. Most people are the same religion that they were born with, that their parents were in the country. There's a reason why that is, because most people don't go on their own journey to explore what is it they want. Most people let society program,
Right.
the overwrite their programming. So. And I think it's harder. This is one avenue. I talked about in my first video how hard it is for men in poly. But when it comes to sexuality, women have it stacked against them. I mean, you taught the term slut shaming. Women get slut shamed from guys and girls, right? Have you experienced that?
Probably early on, but I don't typically, associate or socialize with very closed-minded people. But that definitely does happen, and that can kind of shape who you ought to be instead of who you want to be, especially for females.
Yeah. So I think I kind of just want to touch on a few things of maybe why monogamy still exists. So I think, number one is religion. Ironically, we see major changes from like 50, 100 years ago, right? If you go to religion, sometimes polygamy is in the Bible, right? And obviously that is not what we're talking about here, but women should be obedient to the man is the kind of the thing that comes from religion, especially the monotheistic religions. So Judaism, Islam, Christianity. But you look at society now, when you have the LGBTQIA plus, you have the gay community, which by and large monogamy is just kind of not quite the same thing as it is in the straight community. Maybe it's because they're a little more honest about it, considering that 70% of people cheat. So religion plays a role. Did you have any thoughts about religion and how that impacts Sexuality and dating poly.
Well, I mean, yeah, it is used to control, again, the female sexuality. You know, it's there to control. It's not there to allow exploration or live an alternative lifestyle that is acceptable.
But I think it's not just control. I mean, to go into that, it uses guilt, right? It uses
Well,
guilt.
that's part of the control. Yeah.
Right. Guilt is one of the aspects it uses to control.
Yeah.
What are some of the other aspects of that religion controls?
It's not acceptable. It's not acceptable. I've had plenty of girlfriends, friends, in my life that, have a hard time dating ethically non-monogamous. They don't necessarily identify as poly, or alternative, but, they're like, I can't date more than one person at a time. And I'm like, well, why not? And they're like, it's just not right. And I'm like, well, why isn't it just right? And they never really have a real good reason, or they could say it's religion, or I just don't have, the capacity. And I'm like, well, you do, but it's something that is, you've been taught not to want to explore. So that's the kind of excuse that they give. It just doesn't feel right. And it doesn't feel right because society deems it not to be right. And that's really unfortunate.
Yeah, I mean, if you can imagine, like, luckily I did not grow up with religion, and I see that how it really jacks up both men and women's sexuality and the fulfillment of that. I mean, one of the, when we do the swinger thing and we're with other couples, a lot of times the guy can't get it up. And I'm not saying I'm blaming it all on religion, but I like to think that religion, if there's any guilt element, like, and they grew up in a religious household, that definitely didn't help. That doesn't help that situation. Women have to face, I think, more of that kind of religious shaming in a sense.
Yeah, it's definitely, well, it's more acceptable for, men to have mistresses and for people to turn a blind eye opposed to, females, having other partners outside of their marital partner. And again, that's a societal thing. Women, again, are not supposed to have lots of different partners, but it's definitely more acceptable in the society for men.
But weirdly, in a weird way, women do, they have a lot of fans, only fans, that where when women's sexuality is shown, like, versus straight male sexuality, it's very commercialized and also popular, like OnlyFans, right? I mean, it's generally the women, by and large, are the ones making the big bucks on OnlyFans, and it's, by and large, a lot of guys, paying these women, and so obviously, in a weird way, a lot of men don't have a problem inherently, like, sharing a woman, their woman with.
I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that. I think men, sex sells.
Strip clubs.
Yeah, but when it comes to their actual partner, they probably have a harder time. Now, having variety is not so. I don't think that's such an issue for them.
Well, there definitely is something with men and how they view sexuality, which is dichotomy. And I'm speaking men on average here, where a lot of men, lust after strippers who inherently have different men lusting after them all day long. OnlyFans, men lusting after them all day long. Porn stars, men lusting after them all day long. Instagram, fitness models, men lusting. Like, men inherently don't have a problem being attracted to a woman who's sexual. It's just that
if it's their woman,
who they feel entitled and think they own them, then it's a different. All of a sudden, there's a switch.
Yeah.
And interestingly, like in hip hop culture, if you pay attention, there's this kind of thing where the side chick, right? It's like it's kind of understood. If I'm a guy and I'm fucking someone else's girlfriend, I get the pride that I'm fucking your girlfriend or wife, and I brag about it. I can deal with that. But then the minute that it becomes a normal relation, they can't deal with the actual reverse of that.
Right.
You know, so that's what's funny. It's all about the position. Is that if it's not perceived to be some type of ownership, men are okay in a lot of ways. But once there's a perceived kind of ownership,
It's a different.
then that insecurity and that jealousy takes over, which we talked about last video. I just think it's interesting how all it takes is the perceived relationship where it's like, you know, the side chick or the side dude or whatever it is. That's okay. There's probably a lot of people out there doing this right now. That's okay. But the minute it becomes a main relationship, oh, God forbid, like, you know, some people kill themselves or commit violent acts to prevent, you know, if they catch their significant other with someone else. Yeah. But being the side dude is completely fine. Why is that? I mean, and it really boils down to perceived ownership, and that's the thing. So it goes going back to, is monogamy natural with all this cheating and side dudes and side chicks and that are so prevalent in the culture? Then where is monogamy? Where is it natural? I mean, even in places where women can get killed for stepping outside their marriage, it still happens.
Yeah.
So even with all these constraints you place on cheating and death penalties and all this, it still happens. So I have to say that, like, I don't think it is natural. I think there's a lot of insecurity people out there that feel like entitled to own the other person. I think that there's a lot of that, but I don't see any evidence in our society where monogamy is natural. To be fair, there's probably some people where it works. And if you have a low sex drive, both men and women, it's probably a lot easier to make it work. But show me a woman or male that has a high sex drive, and that probably won't work. You know, I mean, and you know, the other thing to think about is, are there powerful men out there that are monogamous? What do you think, Jolene?
Well, I guess, how do you find powerful?
Okay, I mean, so I'm thinking of Martin Luther King Jr., right? Great, one of my heroes, great inspiration in terms of civil rights movements. But, you know, if you know kind of anything about his background, J. Edgar Hoover basically recorded him having affairs with white women and tried to use that to blackmail them. You know, so here we are, we have someone who, by all, you know, for all purposes, is a very moral person, a very extremely courageous person, someone I identify with, but he was stepping outside his marriage so much that the FBI, J. Edgar Hoover specifically, blackmailed him, you know. So, I mean, that goes again to where does monogamy, I mean, is it actually a thing? You know, so if you have any disagreements, like, I please present your argument, you know, and if you want to, maybe we can come on, we could do a live stream and discuss this. I just don't see it. I just don't see it in playing out that it is natural. So I think one of the other reasons that monogamy is perceived to be natural is insecurities and jealousy, like we talked about in the last video.
Yeah.
So obviously, if you are an insecure person and you get to, you know, it bothers you to see your woman with another man, what's a very easy way to play that off, you know, and control that situation? Well, you can go to church, right? Right, and so you start to see that how easy, not just the church itself and society itself is kind of overwriting our programming, so to speak, but a lot of people and guys use it as a form of manipulation.
Yeah.
You know, virtue signaling. Some people don't like that word, but you know, when I say virtue signaling, it's literally trying to signal something that, yeah, you are more virtuous than other people, so you're a better person. You know, and so I see this with some of my friends on Facebook, you know, that are my age, maybe a little bit younger, And they'll talk about it's good to go through a celibate phase. It's good to, well, I mean, it's easy to be celibate when you don't have any opportunities. That's like, I get, anyone who, I hate to say this, is good with women knows what you're doing when guys say that. I'm going through it's good to be celibate. Well, yeah, because you don't have any opportunities, you know? It's very easy to say that. Show me someone who show me Wilt Chamberlain back in the day going through a celibate phase. Okay, maybe that's something.
So you think it's something that they just tell themselves?
Yeah, they tell themselves to rationalize why they're not good with women. They might do it through religion. They might do it through some virtue signaling. But inherently, most of it's just rooted in insecurity, you know. Because if you're a straight male and you like women, you are going to try to sleep with as many beautiful women as you can. You're not going to be like, oh, I'm going through a celibate phase now. Yeah, but it's not by choice.
So that has to do with confidence too.
Right.
Security and confidence in one's ability.
So, so we kind of talked about overall kind of some of the aspects of why, like, I don't think monogamy is natural, but did you want to share any stories about like some of the things that maybe you've cheated on? And I was going to tell you I was going to talk about some of my stories, or I think you were, when you were younger, didn't you have an affair with your boss who was married, right?
I did, yes. And that was, I don't know. I was exploring. Clearly, he was married. It's, he wanted something different. He wanted something that was not his wife. And so we did have a bit of an affair. And I was, at the time, young, very early on in my sexual journey. I've always been very open-minded, and it was acceptable to me at the time. Now I look back and I am not really proud of, my behavior, because I am non-monogamous, but I'm ethically non-monogamous. I don't ever want to, be someone's side chick, which I was. And I've learned from that, and I don't ever want to, ruin anybody's marriage knowingly or cause potential issues. And that definitely was an experience that I had. And at the time, not very proud of it, but, I had to go through that experience to realize, like, this is not okay. This is not the kind of relationship that I want to be having going forward. I want to be open. I want to be sexual. I don't want to have to worry about the fear of, ruining people's lives or, causing anybody issues. I'd rather be in a relationship with someone who, is free and is open and honest about, the things that they want out of their life, and not, live two separate lives.
What did you learn from the whole kind of cheating thing that you were involved with? Did that kind of like point you in a direction to be more ethical? Did you?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Of course. At first it was fun. It was thrilling. He was older. I was younger. He was my boss. So there's definitely levels there that I needed to kind of peel back to understand my own action and my involvement in this kind of relationship. And through the experience, I realized, once it ended, and it ended very naturally, like we just kind of, it wasn't a bad ending. There wasn't any drama. It just, it had its moment, right? When I look back on it, especially now being a 43-year-old woman, again, not proud of that behavior, but I think I needed to go through that to really understand why I was doing it, what I was getting from it, what I wanted, what I needed. And the reason I was doing it was not a healthy reason why,
Did you want to disclose why you were doing it?
I was doing it just, it was, again,
for attention?
Sure, it was attention. It was fun. I was getting the attention of an older male, someone who had authority over me. It was, there is a thrill being with anybody new.
What's a
right?
taboo, right? That's
Well, that's part of it,
yeah.
but it's also when you are with somebody new, there's a lot of energy, new relationship energy. Even if it's ethical, non-ethical, it's that level of excitement. It's that adrenaline rush, and
Well,
I can get those.
You got to sneak around like you're spies, so it kind of feels a little dangerous, right?
Yeah, it does. But I mean,
And dangerous kind of
I
fun.
can get that feeling by being ethical. I can get, and it's more intense, and it's more real, and it's more genuine, and that's what I want. Not, again, to be someone's side chick. And that's not ultimately what I figured I wanted. And again, I want to be open and honest. I don't want to have to hide or lie about my feelings towards anybody in that way.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of went through a similar phase when I was younger, growing up in a small town in Georgia. I didn't really know anything about the lifestyle with non-monogamy. I don't think anybody really did back then. There wasn't really a whole lot of books about it. There wasn't a whole lot of things on the internet about it. But so I just kind of thought that cheating, I knew monogamy wasn't going to work for me. And I would just, because every time I would date a girl, I'd be like, okay, now I'm going to be monogamous now. And then I'd see another girl that was hot, and I'm like, oh, I want to fuck her too, you know. And so I realized this is a pattern. This is never going to change. This is just the way life is the way I am. And so I was like, I guess I'll just lie about it all the time. And once you do this for a while, you realize all the complications. You got to keep your story straight. And at some point you just have these varying degrees. Like one girl knew I was fucking other girls, but I was cheating, and then she could have always gone to my girlfriend and used that against me because it's a huge mess, And so after doing it for a while, I didn't even know about the lifestyle. I just this isn't really ethical. I should just kind of be open about it. And I went from cheating to a don't ask, don't tell kind of situation to kind of where I am now, married and in polyamorous relationships. But the thing is that it's so, I was in the military, and I feel like it's part of the military culture for just to cheat, and I unfortunately I remember I used to be proud of this, kind of like the hip hop songs where I would sleep with, slept with a number of wives that were married, I always had this temporary ego boosting thing because I was insecure back then. I wanted attention, and I couldn't really articulate the things that I wanted. But it's a good feeling when you sleep with someone's wife. You're like, yeah, your husband I must be better than her husband. But then after you do this a while, you recognize that a lot of times she's going to stay with the husband, and she's just using you for sex. And once you do that, you realize it's not really as cool as it plays out in rap music. You start to realize that you're literally just being used by women, and it's not as cool as it sounds. So whenever I hear that in rap music, I was like, yeah, I went through that phase 20 years ago. I've really evolved out of that. But the thing that came about that, and this still happens to this day, because there's been at least 20, maybe 30. I should maybe keep a record of this, although that would probably be crazy. At least a lot of cases where, I've dated women, I've slept with them, we had a connection, and then come to find out they're married, or, they're cheating, they're cheating with me, with her husband, or a boyfriend or something. And when that happens as many times as it's happened to me, you start to realize that, in a sense, I'm being used. That's a shitty feeling.
Yeah.
And he's like, I thought I had a connection, but it's not going to go anywhere because of the lying and the unethical element of it. And that's a bad feeling. But you also get a sense of, number one, when it happens 20, 30 times, you realize that this is actually pretty common. I was like, there's some guy out there, a husband, boyfriend, who, I don't know if he finds out or not, but he would probably be pissed. What a shitty feeling that, these 20, 30 women, whatever it is, have, cheated on probably a decent guy. And you're like, 20, 30 isn't a small number. That's a lot. So is monogamy natural? And I think it also speaks to what I talk about jealousy is all those guys that think you're going to control your woman, you're not. You may lock her down and she's going to sneak out of the house for diapers and she's got some dates set up and you can't do shit about it, you know? So and this, going back to, I speak to a lot of this kind of new stuff out of the kind of the men's blogosphere that I hear, in which there is some good information in the men's blogosphere, to be said. But I see this kind of new movement about like kind of controlling your woman and having her clear out her social media. Yeah, go ahead and try that. Yeah, I don't think it's going to work well for you, you know. What are your thoughts? Would you if you met a guy and he told you to clear your social media, what would you do?
Absolutely not. That would not be okay. There's got to be some individuality in relationships and autonomy. I mean, even in monogamous relationships, I think that's unacceptable. You know, we are individual people. I think a lot of what happens in monogamous relationships is that, you know, the couple, male, female, merge into one, and there's no individuality, there's no autonomy. You know, not that you can't be open and honest and share things, obviously, absolutely. But, you know, there is something to be said to still be an individual person and to have control over what is yours and you know, and not have your partner control your social media. I mean, I think that's unacceptable. And I think that's a recipe for disaster.
And I would go and say this: if you're a strong, confident woman, you're not going to allow a man to do that.
Yeah.
I'm just going to go throw that out there.
That is a kind of a perversion, you know. Oh, this person really loves and cares about me, that they want to control and monitor what I do and who I do it with. I think that's a perversion. That's control. That's not healthy. That's not normal. You know, your partner should want to be able to support you and allow you to have your own life and allow you to have autonomy and to allow you to have things that are separate from them. Trying to control it is, you know, a lot of times in our society is misguided as, oh, I love you. I do these things because I love you. And that's just a perversion of love, because that is not true love.
Well, I think that speaks to the point. If monogamy is so natural, why do so many, especially men in this case, go out of their way to control their woman's sexuality? Again, I made this point in the last video, but if monogamy is so natural, why the need to go in and double check on, you know, your wife's, your girlfriend's social media? You know, riddle me that for all you people out there that disagree with me. And good luck. I mean, if you try to go and do that, I mean, I don't think it's going to work out for you, especially in today's society. But good luck. We'll see how that works for you. So jealousy, and we talked about a lot of that last week, but monogamy doesn't even seem to be natural in our culture, right? I mean, look at movies, music. Like, monogamy doesn't seem to even really exist in those elements, right? I mean,
they do.
Like what?
But there is, you know, there's.
But how much does infidelity play a role in?
But that's entertainment. That's what I'm saying. So that's what I was trying to get at. That's entertainment. That's
but if monogamy was,
that's not, you know, that's not a good story. There's lots of great love stories out there, absolutely. But there's also a lot of stories that involve, infidelity and the struggles that all that brings.
Well, I mean, so you have like the movies,
good drama.
You have movies in those books, Nicholas Sparks, like The Notebook, which, you know, are in a way are very extremely romantic and everything. But that, even if you have that connection in real life, which is a little bit kind of fantasy driven, the Nicholas Sparks, that doesn't mean she doesn't desire, you know, some hot guy that she works with that makes her laugh all day, you know. You could what was that movie with Channing Tatum? I don't know which one you're talking about.
He's been in lots of movies. Baby.
Yeah, Channing Tatum with the Nicholas Sparks one where he's a soldier. Anyway, it's like, I mean, honestly, do you think that girl, when she was home and he was overseas, I mean, she was definitely banging somebody else, but that wasn't part of the story, you know? And by the way,
That's
anyone who served in the military can speak to what I'm saying, right? Because everyone knows about the Jody culture and how common that is in the military. So, yeah, I'm not the only person who, and I'm blanking on the name of the movie, but it's Channing Tatum. It's one of those Nicholas Sparks movies. These are many. I'm not the only first person to make a joke about that. But like music, is monogamy? Is there any songs actually about monogamy? Can you think? I can't think of any off the top of my head.
I mean, there's love songs, but it's a lot of times about love lost or gone, or, you know, they want the love back. It's there is some love songs out there, but
About specifically about monogamy though.
well, yeah. I mean, love songs. Yes, there are.
Like which ones?
Kip, now he puts me on the spot. I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, but
everybody writes about
the point
love.
is, it's pretty rare. The fact that none of us can come up with
agree.
one.
I can't agree with that.
Okay, but so hey, if you guys can find some songs that are about monogamy, please write them in the comments, because you know, maybe it's just not on my musical radar.
It's not.
So I'm willing to admit I could be biased.
I don't listen to music and think, oh, is this song about monogamy or not? Like I don't.
Yeah, I just don't. I mean, maybe there's some Christian songs out there that
yeah, there's lots of them
about monogamy, but then again, like
a love story.
Even in Christian songs, there's a video that I saw. It was called "Drop It Low for Jesus," and like that's kind of, I thought that was weird. I was like, because like dropping it low, like you're going to hell, like low in the whole spectrum, right? Low is going to hell, so you're dropping it low as like a sexual kind of thing, and you're doing that for Jesus. I think that's kind of very strange. But
I don't know that song.
Yes, it's not real popular. I think it was just. But yeah, these girls in the background basically twerking, and you know they're doing it for Jesus. I don't know how that relates necessarily to monogamy, but it doesn't seem to really line up with the Christian values that I know. Maybe because they're not. Maybe because the Christian values aren't necessarily natural. I don't know. I don't. If someone can explain to me the rationale behind dropping it low for Jesus, because I don't get it. Because like low is hell, right? Like right. And anyway, if you can explain it to me, please do. I don't get it. I find it very funny and entertaining. But I don't get it. Maybe somebody does. Would you drop it low for Jesus?
No.
No. Why not?
That's just not how I do things.
Okay. Would you drop it high?
I don't even know what that means.
I don't know either. Yeah. So there's a lot of weird things in our culture with regards to sexuality. And so my argument here is generally I don't see monogamy as natural. I've seen Ben Shapiro make arguments about monogamy being natural, but this is also the same guy who says that like a wet ass pussy is a medical condition. So I don't really think he understands anything about sex or how to turn women on. And granted, like I think he's a very sharp guy, but I think when it comes to sex and social dynamics, I don't really think he has any idea what he's talking about. But I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, and I welcome an argument against what I'm saying. And if you want to, please come on and we can have a conversation, because I'm willing to admit I'm biased, and. Let's talk it out. That's how we just, so hey, if you disagree and you want to present your evidence and facts, let's talk about it. But in general, I just don't see monogamy as natural. And so the reason why I bring this up for the Poly Men podcast is that, like, I think that to start succeeding in polyamory, there's an element of accepting that maybe this line. Maybe there's this element in society or this element in religion or whatever that's holding you back from living a life that you're free and that you would enjoy on a whole nother level a lot more. Like, the life, are you actually satisfied with the life you're living right now? Do you feel like there's more? And a lot of times when you feel like there's more, it's usually because you have your own self-constrained, ties on you, or you have some type of mind. Your society's overprogrammed you, and you haven't developed your own programming, and uploaded that in your own mind yet. And a lot of people get stuck with that. They live and they fight for what society says all their life, and they're in a constant state of frustration and why is my life not fulfilling? And a lot of it is because of these shackles that you put on yourself. And so I think for one of the main shackles that people have is this concept of monogamy. And I think if you kind of look at it, and you're welcome to like go look at books like Sex at Dawn, any of the evolutionary psychology books, The Red Queen, and just kind of like look and see that there's a reason why you're frustrated. It's because you aren't really programmed to do this. And now this gets into something else, and we'll probably do another podcast on this, and we'll go in depth, is ethics. Our whole point, and contrary to what some people may think, is not just go out and do whatever you want at the expense of others. No, there's a big ethical component to what we do. We communicate with each other. Everything is consensual, but it's the ethical is rooted in what is actually best for us, all of us. And so it's far from a free-for-all, and it actually requires a lot of discipline. But like if you kind of understood some of the thinkers out there, the contemporary motivational speakers, like discipline is freedom, and it is. And discipline and ethics is freedom. But maybe one of the things holding you back is maybe you had a very strong religious upbringing that that where you feel guilty if you see other people.
Yeah.
You see multiple people.
Yeah, and that's a challenge, and that's something you really have to work through and work on yourself and work on understanding that to overcome those feelings. It's been programmed by society, by religion, by so many things that you just can't, you snap your fingers and you're rid of that mindset. That's definitely not how that works.
No, it's not. It's not. So, I mean, these are some tools. I'm obviously stating this to present my argument, but I'm also stating this as a tool for you to unlock so you can be more free on your journey through life. And inherently, I'm biased. I think that I think freedom is a wonderful thing, and that's my main way of living is being free. And it's not free to do whatever I want to. It's free to live the life that I want, free from society's constraints. Like I've literally done the work to cut society's constraints off. And a lot of one of the major constraints could be religion for some people. It wasn't with me, and I'm very lucky that it wasn't. But it could be your insecurities.
Yeah.
That's a big one that holds you back. Society, your fear of slut shaming.
Acceptance.
Yeah, I mean, I remember a long time ago. I grew up I went to Dublin High School, and back in those days, there was a separate homecoming court for blacks and whites. You'd vote on separately. So interracial dating was not really a thing, but you constantly heard it in the hallways. Black guys wanted to sleep with white girls, and sometimes they did, and white guys want to sleep with black girls, and so maybe they did, but they did it on the down low, like i.e. cheating, kind of the same thing. And then it's like, but why not own it? It's like, okay, society, shamed you into not doing this stuff in public, not going on interracial dates in public or whatever it is, and people. So when people say like, oh well, I'm free to do what you want, but are you really free? Like, could you go out, like, if somebody made fun of you, if you're in a interracial relationship, or somebody you're walking down the street, do you actually have the ability to go and like have the courage to own that shit. You know, and I think it's a lot easier to do it in society now. But, you know, for a lot of people, like, that's still heavily present. Like, I don't want to, what if someone says this? What if someone says that? Man, that kind of way of thinking will hold you back in so many areas in life. And not just in relationships, but especially relationships. So that's my argument. Monogamy is not natural. Feel free. Let's debate. Let's have a discussion. And that's it. We'll have a great week, and we'll put out another video in a few weeks. Thank you.